Anderson. Firstly, on behalf of the Team Global Express, I thank you for accepting our invitation and to be here with me today to share your thoughts with us. And I've been a bit overwhelmed to be in front of you, be in front of such a legend in football. So thank you very much for your time today, Mr. Anderson.
You're welcome. And you must be very old if you remember me playing.
Not really. I know I look older than my actual age, but yeah, so I was actually not even born then.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, right.
But I have seen your clips. I have seen the interviews. I have seen those videos afterwards. So it's fantastic for me to be here even today. So I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction of who we are as Team Global Express, or as we call it, TGE here, which is shortened for our company. So we are a large-scale intermodal transport business in Australia and New Zealand. As the industry suggests, this is an industry which has historically been male-dominated. However, we have now a female leader in Christine Holgate. She has made significant strides in making us an equitable and diversified workplaces in Australia. To give you some stats, 1/3 of our exec team is comprised with females, and we have a 15,000 strong workforce from 56 different nationalities and ethnicities. So that's a great testimony. It is, yeah. So it's a great testament to the diversified environment that we have tried to create. We have been recently awarded as one of the top 10 companies to work for in Australia by LinkedIn. This is because of all the good things that we do, because customers and people are at the forefront of everything that we do, and we are passionate, we are united, and we respect everyone, and everyone has equal opportunities in our organization. We are also the official logistic partner for the FIFA Women's World Cup, which is going to kickstart in a few days. So we are so excited. There is so much buzz going on in Australia and New Zealand, and everyone within TG is quite excited to be the official logistic partner there as well. So all this leads us to us being one of the most diversified companies in Australia. The words like diversity and the equity and all these things, you hear these every time. Even when you go into social media, you hear this. And sometimes it feels like it's a bit of a cliche and these are some buzzwords. But we try to make sure these are not buzzwords for us. And we want to make sure that this is part of our DNA and we are proud of it. However, we still believe, Mr. Anderson, we can do more. We still believe we should do more. So based on your experience from your playing days all the way up to the management of the sport, what advice can you give to us to make the workplace more equitable and impactful, as well as meaningful for all of us, despite our background?
I think it's really important to start where I first started. Remember, I started in 1973. It's a long time ago now. And the only ever blackface I ever saw on the television playing sport, playing football especially, was a lad called Clyde Best. He played for West Ham long before your time, you would know. But if you look back in the archives, he was a really good centre forward for West Ham, scored lots of goals. But they were fleetingly on the telly from time to time, you know. Not every week you would see them because they weren't that fashionable. You know, the Man Uniteds, the Arsenals, all those sort of clubs were fashionable. But you'd see him from time to time and say, oh, I want to be like him. That's where I first started. So there weren't many black faces. And then suddenly I came along, then Cyril Regis, Laurie Cunningham, Brendan Batson, and they came along as well. So it's been a slow build up of where we are today. When you go up and down the country and you see football matches, and invariably there are more than one black face in the football team. I think as a country, the UK has need to develop the other side of it now. We're accepted as footballers, but you look in the management, you look at the echelons of football, there's not many black faces in there at all. So I think that's the next stage we have to try and address, because they're accepted as players, but there's some barrier between being a player and being a manager or in the management team. And I think we need to get over that issue. They're talking about adopting the Rooney Rule in the UK. Now, whether the employees just interview a black person to say, or Asian person, or whatever color they are, just to say, to tick a box, to say, well, we did that, but we're always going to employ the white guy, or whatever it may be. So it can't be a tick box exercise. It's got to be done properly, and people, as long as they've got the qualifications, have got to be given the opportunity to get to the next level, like I was when I saw Clyde Best. Well, I wanted to be like him. So that's the same example, 40 odd years later in management. I want somebody, and we've just lost 2 black managers there just recently. Paul Ince was one of them, and Darren Moore at Sheffield Wednesday. They've just lost their jobs, and everybody wants to strive to be them and try and sustain that and try and be successful at that.
Yeah, I think that's quite passionate, Mr. Anderson, and that gives me a great segue to talk about your own history. So, as you said, you played football in the 1970s. And you were the full black player to represent the English football team back in the 70s. And you were the first such player to represent some of the prestigious clubs back then. The list goes on, and you were awarded an MBE, and then you were inducted to the English Football Hall of Fame for the yeoman service that you had done. However, you played during a time when the racism was quite rife inside football stadiums, and you were targeted because of the way you looked. Presumably, you may have had 2 options, either to give up or to continue doing what you do well, which is to play football at that time. Fortunately for all of us, not just for people of color, but for the whole world, you chose the latter. You went on to become a football great, and it's quite an inspiring story, to be honest with you. So, while you touched upon earlier about that time period, I'd like to ask, what kept you going during that time? And in your view, how important the diversity is for the sport as well as for the corporate world?
Answer the question is 2 words: Mr. Brian Clough. He was my manager at Nottingham Forest. I remember, I'll tell the story. We went to play Newcastle away on a cold, wet Wednesday night. And I went out, I happened to go out on the pitch on my own just to see what studs I was going to wear, whether it's going to rubber studs or molded studs or proper studs. So I looked at the pitch, and the whole stadium booed and shouted things. So I went back into the dressing room and said to the manager, "Can I have a word?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I don't think I can play tonight." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, the people out there are just booing me and shouting things and everything else." He said, "You're playing." That was it. Nothing else. He never said anything else. "You're playing." So when the manager says you're playing, go back, get my kit on, play. I think we got beat that night. After the game, he said to me, pulls me to one side and says, "You let people like them in the stadium tonight dictate to you, you are never going to make it in professional football." And I just passionately wanted to be a footballer. So from that day onwards, anybody could shout anything at me, and it would go in there and out there. So he helped me as a 17-year-old all those years ago to understand it, explain. He said, what he said after that, he said, "You're here on your ability, and you have to show your ability to show these people that you are a good player. And that's why I bought you. If I didn't think you were good enough, I wouldn't have bought you. I would have chosen somebody else to play tonight." So he helped me enormously throughout that time to get through. And my teammates, anybody did say anything to me, especially on the pitch, they were straight over, be saying things and pointing at and saying, "Referee, have you heard what he said?" So I had a group of teammates that were fantastic. I grew up with 3 or 4 of them. We were apprentices together. So we had that bond that not many clubs have, but we had a special bond at Nottingham Forest days when we managed to win back-to-back European Cups. So that helped me. But Mr. Brian Clough in those early days was absolutely fantastic for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's quite, because that's 4 years ago, and that what you had to go through, and then still to keep up with your passion. It's quite amazing. And Mr. Anderson, what do you think the corporate world must do, leveraging on the diversity? And in your view, how important the diversity is for the corporate world?
Diversity is really important, as I touched on earlier. The FA, all I see is white men, 60-year-old white men in authority. You know, I think diversity is something people got to look up to and say, I want to be like that. And
Mhm.
I think they should be given the opportunity, whatever colour it is, to give it the opportunity to get to that level. It shouldn't be a closed shop. It shouldn't be somebody says if you speak to Johnny, you'll get that job and stuff like that. I think it's really important that it's open and what's the word I'm looking for? It's open and transparent.
Yeah.
That if you've got the qualifications, you've got all the knowledge, whether it be football knowledge, whether it be corporate knowledge, you should be given the opportunity on that basis and that basis alone. It shouldn't be the color of your skin. It should be what you have got to offer the company.
I think that's a pretty good insight, Mr. Anderson, because you're right. Like even I look up to people of who have done it in the past, and that gives me the confidence. Well, if they have done it, I should be able to do it as well. But if you don't have that, probably you're going to lose some of those people in the process because they fear that they may not have a chance. So that's pretty spot on in my view, because you tend to look up to those people.
In football terms as well, I've known lots of black players that's maybe not got to my level, but got to similar sort of level, and they think, well, what's the point of doing the badges? Because getting the qualifications, because you're never going to get a job in the first place. So they're
Mhm.
put off by that. But they have to
Yeah.
see more people in authority getting the jobs, doing the job, and then saying, well, he did it. I don't see why I can't. But we don't see enough of them, especially in the Premier League, where, as I said just recently, we've just lost two more black faces. So it's
Mhm.
really important we have idols or people of color that we can look up to and say, I want to be like him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that gives me another segue to move back the attention back to Australia. Now, Australia can be, or Australia is, geographically well isolated from rest of the world. Like if you start flying from Australia, it takes 5 hours just to get out of the Australian continent, and you're
Yeah,
still there. And it
yeah.
takes us 24 hours just to get to London from here. So it's far away from rest of the world. However, last time I checked, demographically speaking, we are not isolated at all. To throw you some stats around, Mr. Anderson, so almost one third of its population was born overseas, including myself. And almost half of the population has at least one parent who was born overseas. So this is a melting pot of all these cultures. And I'm based in Melbourne, and Melbourne has almost 250 cultures. It's such a great place to be in. And I personally believe it's fitting for a country like that to get to host the next FIFA Women's World Cup. And wearing my TGE hat on, I think for a company like us, we are very passionate to be the next, the logistic partner of this grand event. Because sport is all about bringing people together. No matter what your background, no matter where you are, it brings joy to the people. It brings people together. It brings harmony, and it let go of the pain that people have. What can you tell to us as the people in the corporate world to continue to do more based on what you see in the football field to bring people together so that they feel like they're safe and they can thrive more?
This is a great example. You getting the World Cup is a great example. I remember a few years ago it was in Russia, and everybody's going, "Oh, I don't want to go to Russia because of this, that, and that." It turned out to be one of the best World Cups. This last World Cup, it was
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic. The British World Cup. I mean,
Yeah.
the FIFA World Cup. So it's a great example for how diverse countries can put it on. And I think Australia will put on a fantastic World Cup. I'm looking forward to watching the games as well. Although England's lost a few of their key players, I must admit, through injury. But, you know, they are the European holders, European
Yeah.
Championship holders. So they're coming there on good spirits. So to answer your question, I think it's good that it's gone to Australia because of the diversity. So 38%, I've got here 33% of the Australians are from mixed race or different nationalities or whatever it may be. It's a fantastic setting. And I've been many times, well, I would say many times. I've been 3 or 4 times, and I've been to Melbourne, I've been to Brisbane, I've been to Sydney, and I had a fantastic time. And I think all the supporters going there, with the women's football taking off so much now in the last few years, I think it'd be a fantastic spectacle, and that hopefully it's a successful one, and it goes on from there. And they'll see the bringing together of all the different nationalities, the different creeds and colours mingle together for one goal, which is football, and watching it at the highest level. I think it's a great spectacle, and it will be a great spectacle.
So you talked about bringing people together and how important it is to have diversity. And what we wanted to do is to make sure that we have the safe environment for all of us to be together and all of us to thrive together. And you talk about how people look into the idols and how they say that you can, if this person can do it, I should be able to do it as well. Now, what more do you think the corporate world can do to bring everyone together and make it a safe place for everyone to work?
First and foremost, the door must be open. The employees must be able to go in and say to the management, I don't like this, or I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. It's got to be open and transparent, so they know they can go and speak to people. Last thing you want to do is bottle it all up, and then all of a sudden it comes out, and you go, well, where's that come from? You should always, and the best managers I've worked with, you can knock on their door anytime and say, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, or why am I not playing here? And they'll give you an answer for the question. So I think that's really important, especially diverse people. They don't want to be seen as, well, a troublemaker. Oh, he's going in again. Oh, he's a troublemaker, and this, that, and the other. You want to be transparent. You want to be open and share the problems with other people, because that's, whether it could be mental, it could be physical, it could be all sorts of reasons why. But that's what management is. You've got to manage all these different scenarios with diverse people, and a group of, like a manager who's got 20 odd players, he has to make sure they're all individuals, if they've all got different needs, and you've got to manage those needs. And that's what good managers do. And I think it's really important that your company adopts that approach as well.
I think that's a fantastic insight there, Mr. Anderson, because this is an example, a live example I can share with you too, because I feel that I'm quite safe in sharing my thoughts, and this is what we wanted to make sure, for the point that you raised. Everyone feels safe to be open about it. And it is not about whether you are the boss or whether you are the team member, and team member always has to listen to the boss. We can always go and speak our mind out. And what I have noted is that because we have this culture that we have created, being respectful, being united, and being passionate about what we do, it has helped us to tap into these untapped potentials over the last few years. And that has helped us to grow, and that has helped us to be visible across everywhere. And that's a great testament to us being the official logistic partner for the FIFA Women's World Cup. So that's great insight there. Thank you for that. So Mr. Anderson, so those were the questions that I had for you for today. And look, it had been my absolute pleasure again to host you tonight. And you have widened my vision, and you have given me some answers which actually made me look at some of the things I do and some of the things that I look at. I mean, it has been my honor to host you tonight. And thank you very much again for your time.
I'm glad you got some insight into what I've been through and what I can instill on you. And if you say it takes you to another level and speak to other people and whatever it may be, it's a good thing. So for a 15-minute conversation, hopefully we can move forward. And you seem to be doing a good job in that company. Team Global Express looks like it's doing a fantastic job, and long may it continue. And I wish you well in your logistics over the World Cup. Make sure nothing goes wrong.
Absolutely, we would make sure that. Thanks a lot, Mr. Anderson, and you have a great day ahead.
Enjoy the rest of your day as well.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye-bye.